Hey everyone, it's Alyssa and I'm back with another video. In today's video, I am taking you on a step-by-step guide of how I list items on Etsy. Now I will say this is a how-to video, but everybody does listing differently, and so there may be some things that you're like, maybe I wouldn't do that. That's okay. Everybody has their own plan and their own thing that works for them. I'm just showing you what I do, and so I hope this is helpful for you and just a fun thing to see behind the scenes of my Etsy shop. Okay, well in today's video, the thing that we'll be listing is actually this really cute brass pocket change dish. I just picked this up and I think it's absolutely adorable. It has a gorgeous patina on it, and I will show you behind the scenes of me getting pictures for this item because that's the first step of listing. Obviously, the first step is actually getting the items, but I don't have video of that. I picked it up from a thrift store. But the first step is going to be getting the item photographed, which I just take pictures on my phone, which I actually film on currently. I'm hoping to upgrade to a DSLR at some point, but not really worried about that right now. As I've said many times, Etsy is a side hobby for me, like side hustle hobby. And so I'm not worried about investing currently in a DSLR. Maybe if my YouTube continues to grow, that will change. But as of right now, I think my phone is perfectly fine. And so if you're just starting out and you're like, I don't have a professional camera, your phone is perfectly fine. If you have a smartphone, you can make it work. So I take pictures using my phone, and then I edit those pictures on Lightroom. So I'm going to show you behind the scenes of that real quick, and then we'll come back to get ready to list this. So I actually have a couple things to list today. It's a sunny, or not sunny, a snowy morning today, but I had taken pictures of some plates for my uncle a couple days ago, and I still need to get those listed, so you would have seen some behind the scenes of that as well. Just me staging some of those and getting those ready for pictures. I always try to set up a little, cute vignette. I do it right by the biggest windows in my apartment. That way there's a lot of natural light coming in, and that's what I would recommend with taking pictures as well. You want as much natural light as possible because it just helps the images look so much better. I edit the pictures in Lightroom slightly, but you definitely don't need to. There's plenty of photos that look fine if you just upload them as is onto your Etsy. So you don't have to add that step in if you don't want to, because Lightroom does come at a cost. It's a monthly subscription with Adobe Lightroom. So anyways, now that we've taken the pictures and edited them, let's go ahead and start getting this listing ready. Okay, so when it comes to listing, you're just gonna go onto your Etsy, and there's this big black add a listing button. So we're gonna click on that. And then it's gonna go ahead and ask you to fill in the category. Sometimes I don't do that right away, especially if I'm listing multiple items in one sitting, because I may not know exactly what category this item is going to be in just yet. We do know that this is going to be a little dish, like a ring dish. So we can look for ring dishes. Sometimes with categories, they can be very specific, sometimes they can't. Another thing that it's going to ask you is if it's a physical item or a digital file. This is a physical item, so you want to make sure that's selected. Usually that's automatically selected. It's also going to ask you who made it. I did, a member of my shop, or another company or person. Since this is vintage and I obviously didn't make this brass plate, it's another company or person. What is it? A finished product, a supply, or tool to make things? It's obviously a finished product. And when did you make it? That question kind of annoys me because it's like, I wish it would change based off of what you selected here with the another company or person made it, but I understand anyways. So this brass plate, it's kind of vague as far as when it would be from, but for the research that I've done, most likely this brass plate is from the 70s. But if you want to just be like, make sure that you can't, you know, you're not saying the wrong thing, you could always just put before 2007, which is the new, I believe, current updated vintage kind of year that Etsy will look for. So if it's before 2007, they'll allow it to be vintage, but if it's like after, then you shouldn't be listing it on Etsy. I think 2007 is crazy to think about that being vintage because that's only like 19 years ago, but the thought of 2007 being 19 years ago is also insane to me. So you could put that, but I'm pretty positive this is from the 70s, so I'm going to put 1970s. Okay, and now we get to the titling. So titling is interesting because it gives you 140 characters. I like to fill out a lot of that, but with this new Etsy AI update, they basically have said like they don't want a lot of repetitive words and phrases, and they actually recommend like only 30 characters being used pretty much. So I haven't been super I guess intentional about using 140 characters. That used to kind of be the standard. Everybody said you have to use all 140 characters or else your listing title isn't good enough. Maybe that's not necessarily true. And again, this is just how I do things. There are ways to do Etsy listings that are completely different than what I do. And like I said, this is a hobby for me. So am I completely perfect and know all of the ins and outs with Etsy SEO and all of that stuff? Not at all. I just try to do my best with labeling things as they are and also put in phrases and stuff that people might be looking for. So what we know about this brass pocket change dish is that that's exactly what it is. We're going to put vintage brass pocket change dish. And I usually put this little like line thing to divide where I will put the title of the item and then maybe some phrases that could be keyword search. So after that, I'm going to just put vintage home decor, which I'll probably get a little notification from Etsy. I haven't yet, but sometimes if you put two of the same words, they don't like that, but they haven't flagged me yet. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. They just recommend not doing that, but I have not had any issues. Like I don't see any reason why not to do that because it is vintage home decor. And then I'm going to just put trinket, dish, ring. I'll put actually jewelry holder. Okay, there it goes with the tips to improve. Try to avoid repetition, vintage and dish. I mentioned those twice. But again, I think it's okay because these are different phrases that people might be looking for. So another thing you can put for this type of stuff is brass home decor, because someone might search just brass home decor and then this has a possibility of coming up. Again, it's saying try to avoid repetition, and it also says consider using 14 words or less. So that's the thing that it tells you. So it wants you to keep it to around 14 words, which again, that's not terrible. I just feel like that's not very, it's not very detailed. And sometimes you want a little bit more detail so that people can find your items. At least that's kind of what I've observed and what I've heard from other people who do know a lot more about Etsy SEO than I do. So I think that's probably good enough. I might also just put MCM and 1970s just so that if people are looking for that stuff specifically, it can come up. All right, next is where we're going to put pictures. They have now updated Etsy so that you can actually upload 20 photos and one video, which is way too many. I definitely don't go anywhere near 20, but if you want that many, you certainly can have that many. So let's see here. We've got a primary photo. I think that's probably a good one. We've got all of our other pictures in here. which show the beautiful patina of the dish, which is honestly, it's so cute. I ended up posting it in a short form video last night in a little vignette that I made, because I do vignette Mondays on my social media. So I, create cute little setups and take pictures of them. And so I thought it'd be fun to film that. And I filmed it, and I ended up including this little brass dish, and so many people were like, have you listed this yet? Where is it? I need to find it. And so I was like, I have to film a video about listing. Might as well go ahead and get this listed if people are that desperate for it. All right, after we upload photos, now we've got our description. This is the part when it comes to Etsy listing that I really don't like, because descriptions are just really annoying to write about. But what we're gonna put here is just a beautiful brass pocket change, jewelry, or trinket dish. So we're just gonna describe the item. And some people use ChatGPT to help with this, but I find ChatGPT to be pretty flowery. I've done it before, but you have to do a lot of editing to make it obvious, or else it's pretty obvious that it's ChatGPT. And I believe ChatGPT also limits you how many times you can have it analyze pictures for free. And so if you're bulk listing like me, and you don't want to pay for ChatGPT, then it's pretty ineffective, just simply because you can only use it for a few listings, and then you have to start doing it on your own. So might as well practice doing it on your own. So we're just going to say, again, a beautiful brass pocket change, jewelry, or trinket dish. And then I want to put here, the item has patina, which can be, I usually point this out if there's any flaws in the photos. And then I also will just say, because there's a little bit of fading on the E at the end is slightly faded. And sometimes if I have a flaw that's pretty distinct, I will set aside an actual picture just for that flaw, and I will reference that in the description, there is a crack or there's a chip. Here's where you can find the chip, of the image of the chip, reference the final photo or something like that. Okay, now here's where I do turn to ChatGPT, because months and months ago, probably 2 years ago now at this point, I had ChatGPT write me up a disclaimer about just vintage items, because if you are a vintage seller, you know how sometimes vintage can come with little tears, little abnormalities, just due to the age and history and all of that stuff. And so I just thought it'd be nice to have a disclaimer that I can just copy paste every single listing to have. That way it just covers, us as vintage sellers, so that people aren't like, well, I thought this was new, It's hopefully no one thinks that, and I haven't come across that issue, but I just like to have that as a disclaimer. Okay, so another thing that I always do when I am listing is, when I'm taking pictures, I go ahead and just do a Google lens of the item, especially if I don't really know any background on it. A lot of the glass stuff, I just don't really know what brand it's from. Is it Anchor Hawking? Is it Indiana glass? Sometimes I know, and as I'm selling vintage more and more, I'm able to recognize those more and more, but I still will, even if I know what it is, I still will Google Lens it, just to get a comparison of what other people are selling it for, and maybe also just some ideas for when it comes to listing the items, what they're titling it and stuff. So with this, I did some research on this pocket change brass dish, and what I was seeing was a lot of people selling it around the 20 to 25 mark. I think I saw one as cheap as 18. I definitely don't want to go that cheap, but I was thinking around that 20 mark as well. So I think I'm actually going to put this at $20, which is a little lower than I wanted to, but with the patina it has, some of the wear and tear it has, I think that's probably a fair price, and I only paid $2 for it. So that's a decent markup. Okay, and now we also have some of the other core details. Okay, this is what we filled out at the beginning. So you can fill that out in the beginning, like what we did, the core details about physical item, another company or person, finished product, 1970s, all that stuff. You can fill it out at the beginning, which Etsy's been prompting to do, or you can fill it out here. So since that's already done, we don't need to do that. For materials, we're just gonna go ahead and put brass. All right, and for color, I guess we could, I don't think they have a brass color, but the primary color, I guess we could say, is like gold. And then sometimes if you want to put a secondary color, you can put a different one, but this one doesn't really have, like, the lettering is black, but it doesn't need to be put in there. Okay, now for another favorite part, tags. This is another thing that a lot of people will turn to ChatGPT for, but again, I find ChatGPT sometimes to be just ineffective because I'll put in details of like, hey, give me, you know, tags for this item, and they need to all be, you know, I think it's 20 characters or less for the listing tags on Etsy, and sometimes it still won't understand that. I don't know why. So that's really frustrating. You only get 13 tags, and I'm pretty sure all of them need to be 20 characters or less. So we're just going to go ahead and put brass pocket. We'll just put brass dish, put brass pocket change. Hopefully that's enough. Yeah, okay. And then pocket change. And you want to make sure these are multi-word tags if you can. So we'll put brass home decor, just anything that people might be looking for. Brass decor, vintage brass. And you can't have repetitive tags, like they all need to be separate, different tags. So we can put ring dish, ring holder, jewelry dish, jewelry tray. And then I might put brass jewelry dish and brass ring holder. And then I'll put trinket dish as the last one. Actually, I won't put that. I'll put 1970s home decor. That might be something someone's looking for too. I'm gonna take out the jewelry tray and I'll put MCM as a tag. MCM home decor. Because MCM is a popular thing. So, and then for materials, again, I will just go ahead and put the brass so people know that's what this is made out of. Okay, and now we have our processing profile. I ship next day, so I'll just go ahead and put ready to ship in 1 day. Shipping option, I have a flat rate fee of $5 that I put on every listing. And then, you know what? This item is pretty heavy, so I might go ahead and just pop up the price by $2. Etsy recommends having like a, you know, like a flat fee for shipping. But sometimes if I think that the $5 shipping isn't going to cover the full amount, I'm just going to add a few dollars to the price just to make sure that that is covered. And since this is a heavier item, I don't know if it's going to be under $5. So I'll just make sure with that. Okay, and then we have our returns and exchange policy. I allow a 7-day return window, and this is already pre-filled. Like if you already have that set up in your Etsy background, then that will just fill for every listing. And then you can also select shop section if you want to. So I'm gonna put this in new arrivals, and then I will hit publish. And there we go. We have our listing. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that little behind the scenes video of my process of listing. Again, don't take this as like scripture. Like this is how I list items. I'm literally in my PJs right now, just like listing items. Again, this is a hobby for me. I absolutely love Etsy. I love vintage, but I am no expert when it comes to all of this. Like there are still things that I'm learning every single day on how to get better at. And I have had moments of, you know, ebb and flow with my Etsy shop, but I would say within the past like 6 months, like halfway through last year, I was like, I absolutely need to take this seriously and need to put a little bit more time and effort into this, even though it's not my full-time job. And so that's what I'm really hoping to do in 2026 as well, especially with this YouTube channel. I'm trying to post a new video every single week, and so far that's been going really good. So I hope you're enjoying these videos. Again, I am on a small business journey and I hope you're journeying alongside with me as we learn and grow together in Etsy, vintage, and all of the things. So again, I hope you enjoyed this video and are enjoying this journey. Make sure and comment down below, like this video, and subscribe if you want to continue on with me. But thanks so much for joining me for today's video, and I'll catch you all next time. Bye.